Passionates, I'm still with this cold, so I know I've been sounding crazy. Y'all just gonna have to bear with me. I'm trying to get through it. I'm trying to get past it as quickly as possible, but it's trying to hold on.
Passion public service announcement. Passionate. Let me tell you something.
So what is this Passion PSA podcast? Who am I? Well, they call me Passion, short for passion, no last necessary. Why is there no last name necessary? Because the first name says it all. I am Passion and all that embodies. What do I do here? I give you the life coaching that you know you need, but don't enroll yourself in. When did I start? Actually, 2017. I'd leave a PSA on my Instagram regarding something I'd observed, and now we've evolved to this. Why do I do it? Why not? If even one person is able to take away one thing that changes their life, someone else's life, or changes the world for the better, then I've done what I was charged to do. So come on in, sit and listen for a while. There's something here for everyone at the Passion PSA podcast. Greetings and salutations, my beloved Passionates, newcomers, visitors, and guests. Welcome to another episode of the Passion PSA podcast, where I, Passion, no last necessary, your Get You Right Guru, issue a weekly public service announcement about whatever I have observed or was on my mind. This is a for your consideration zone where the objective is to offer you a perspective you may not have previously considered to both A, expand your thinking, and B, aid you in becoming a better version of yourself for yourself and for others. This is a safe space, but not necessarily a delicate one. I will never rob you of your right to feel what you feel, the same way I will not sugarcoat whatever it is that I have to say. The goal is to get you to higher, more expanded thinking so you can operate as your best and highest self. If you are new here, it is our usual practice to take about 60 seconds at the beginning of each episode to make affirmations. And the reason being that we want to ensure that regardless of what we discuss and how it may make you feel, and today's episode may make you feel a way, we have intentionally started on the highest possible vibration and we are all on the same frequency. So let's take a moment and shift this energy upward. Maybe I'll stop banging into things. You are always welcome to repeat after me or to use this time to state your own affirmations. All of my eyes are open. I am ready to see. I am ready to receive. I am ready to accept. I am ready to self-correct. I am prepared for the challenges I may face. I understand that there may be a great deal of work, but I am willing to give my best effort. I understand that the road may be long, but I am willing to take as many steps as are required to get there. I understand that evolution is ongoing. I grow and evolve daily. Gratitude. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Passionates, have you ever attended a motivational speaking engagement? Or better yet, have you ever attended Black church? And I'm not talking about the conservative churches. Like, praise God and amen for the service that the conservative church has to offer, right? But I'm talking about Southern Baptist, Pentecostal, Kojic, the minister, the preacher, the reverend, the bishop, the whosoever is at the mic at the moment. If they're saying something, they fully welcome and expect the congregation to talk back to them. Have you been there? If you haven't, and this seems foreign, just know that it is an experience. And it's definitely something that you should experience at least once in your lifetime. I'm fairly certain that most of you have at least seen some clip of what it looks like if you're on any of the social platforms. And if you've seen at least one of these clips, I'm almost certain that you've seen at least one where the speaker is talking about you being a giver, being so much to so many, being selflessly loving and barely being tolerated in return. You patiently waiting for your breakthrough and day in and day out finding a way to smile in the face of rejection and resentment, finding a way to stand tall under the weight of so many burdens. You know what I'm talking about? And these clips are motivational. They sow a mustard seed of hope into an otherwise bleak situation. They give you a glimmer of hope that it won't be much longer now because of X, Y, or Z. And passionates, whether it's a motivational speaker or a preacher, while the message is great and it is valuable,
I started thinking about how many people that can't hardly stand for the reading of the scripture. How many of those people spring out of their seats each time any of these messages are brought? The agreement and the, oh, okay, doc, so you just came to talk all my business. Well, go on and preach then. That type of energy gets activated. I thought about how many people the cameras are panning to, right? And they have tears streaming down their faces. The ones that are rocking back and forth. The ones that are pacing and mumbling to themselves because the preacher or the speaker is talking right. And passionates, I was thinking over all of this and I said to myself, somebody lying. All these givers, all these selfless people, all these sacrificers, all these nurturers, all these forgiving, understanding, accepting, loving, supportive, even-tempered, even-keeled saints doing their very best to be a reflection of God, to operate in super consciousness. All these people being and doing all these things, and still so many people who are in the same space for the same encouragement and motivation can't turn to their neighbor on either side of them and receive these things freely and consistently. And if they can, that's generally relegated to Sundays between 7:30 a.m. and 8:45, 9 a.m. and 10:45, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And occasionally there are after-hour offerings, but most of this is in-house. And in the motivational speaking environment, the unlimited encouragement and support is available maybe from the time you get to your seat, if you arrive prior to the event start time, until the parking lot is clear. How are all these people suffering if everybody is so giving and so loving and so kind and so wonderful? Yeah, somebody is lying. And I'm just curious to know how many people in this audience are willing to admit that it's them. I'm curious to know how many people are even aware that they live a lie by way of delusion. And that 7 times out of 9, the only person they're really lying to is themselves. A lot of folks are really mesmerized by their own goodness. We see that every day. The problem comes in when and where they are not equally offended by their problematic behavior. The problem comes in when and where they only find a behavior problematic when it is coming from someone else. The problem is that we come into spaces like this one. We hear statements like these and immediately co-sign what's being said, thinking of all the people who have done this to us or are currently doing this to others. The problem is people like me finding delicate ways to speak to your fragility because everybody saying they want the truth can't handle the truth. Passionate, today I am not talking to your friends, I'm not talking to your relatives, and I'm not talking to your coworkers, okay? Today I'm talking directly to you. The objective that we have here is to do the work. We went over that expressly in episode 1 of this season, right? I said then, you can't hide from your reflection any more than you can run from your shadow. Refusing not to look at a thing doesn't mean it's not there. The goal here is to look at it, assess it, and come up with an action plan to address it. Those were my exact words. But I've realized since then that too many of us don't recognize our own reflections. This is why the motivational speakers saying that we deserve better strikes our emotional chords. And the religious speakers bring us to tears, telling us that better and greater and more is our portion. Well, let me give you some offense for this fine Tuesday, Wednesday cusp. Better and greater and more will come to those who are willing to do and become better and greater and more. When you don't hold the door for the person behind you, you don't think anything of it. But you think the person who let the door go in front of you should be banished to hell for eternity. You lie, but you hate liars. You're rude and obnoxious whenever you feel like it. But you won't stand for anyone to be rude and obnoxious to you. At the thought of someone talking to you crazy, you ready to go up one side of them and come down the other. But you smile and you smirk. When someone says, yo, that was wild what you just said. That was crazy how you just said that. You are amused by your problematic behavior when you're doling it out. And that's only because you're not on the receiving end of it. You don't recognize your reflection because it's ugly. When you do the thing, you think it's cute. And here's your reality check. If it's cute when you do it to someone else, you should find it equally as cute when it's done to you. And if you find it unacceptable for someone else to do it, then that means you shouldn't be doing it either. It's not about whether or not they need to change. It's not about whether or not they need to become different or better. You do. You need to recognize the impact of your lack of humility. You need to get clear on the fact that everything you see wrong with them might not be everything that's wrong with you, but it is definitely an opportunity for you to self-reflect and ask yourself honestly, do I do that? Is that how I come across to others? And no, that is not about seeking validation or approval from others. That is about self-awareness with respect to engaging with others. Every 2 to 3 days, you're not in the mood to deal with. You're not in the mood to be with. You're not in the mood to speak to. But this person is moody because when you are in a good mood, they may not want to engage. Are you as aware of your moodiness, of your nastiness, of the impact that it has on the space and the occupants therein as you are of their moodiness, their disinterest, or their disengagement? Are you asking yourself if this is how you impact people, or are you telling yourself, I don't do that? Are you justifying the impact that you have on people? Yes. Are you rationalizing it because you didn't mean anything by it? It's just, yes. Are you pacifying yourself by saying they're the problem because they took it wrong or they just don't get it? Yes. So when you're on the receiving end, should the impact that it has on you now also be minimized or dismissed because they didn't mean anything by it and because you took it wrong? Because that's what you said when you were handing it out, right? Or is it now problematic because you don't like how it feels? See, the thing about you not having the conversation with yourself is that at some point you'll end up having the conversation with someone else and it probably won't go well. I had a relationship with someone who would call me to vent about how poorly other people treated them. And they would get annoyed when I would respond, you do the same thing to me. So in my head, I'm like, you want empathy from me for how poorly this person has handled you when you do the exact thing to me all the time? And those conversations never made them stop and think and say, you know what? Wow, I didn't realize I was behaving this way. Or, you know what? I apologize because I don't like the way this feels and I don't find it acceptable. So I'll do better going forward. Those conversations usually ended abruptly because they wanted a cosigner and not a corrector. Everybody loves karma until it comes to kick them off their pedestal. If you're at a place in yourself or in your life where you can acknowledge that you've done your share of things that are unacceptable, the sentence should end right there. There should be no but after that clause. Your statement should not be, I know I've done A, B, C, but, and let me tell you why. And a lot of you might disagree, but that's not because I'm wrong. Your statement should not be, I know I've done A, B, C, but, because it's the same difference. The extremity of the action does not determine the validity of the action. I'm saying something. A little lie and a big lie are both lies. You lied about why you were late. Person lied about cheating on their partner. One lie appears more damaging than the other. But both lies were an effort for the person who was wrong to hide what they were doing. Both lies were self-serving. Both lies, when exposed, will cause the person or people lied to question your integrity. Both lies have the potential to alter the relationship indefinitely. The same different. But no, it's not passion, because lying about why I was late can make someone have a nervous breakdown or try to kill me. You don't know that. You want to believe that, but you don't know what someone's traumas or triggers are. You don't know if they constantly feel like they're being lied to and this will be the lie to push them over the edge. Well, then that's their problem. If something as small as this could push them over the edge, well, they need to be in counseling. And if you being late wasn't that big of a deal, why'd you lie about it? Why do they need therapy for their reaction to your behavior, but you don't need life coaching to improve your behavior? Because if you found out someone was lying to you, whether it was little lies or big lies, your issue would be that you were lied to. Your issue would be that your trust was compromised. So why should you be allowed to compromise other people's trust? Aren't we supposed to be treating people the way we want to be treated? And the best way to get people to genuinely treat you the way you want to be treated is to role model the behavior. And I say genuinely because you can treat people crazy and get them to still treat you the way you want. But they're probably silently wishing or plotting ill will against you. So circling back, instead of I know I did, but how about I know I've done my share, so while I'm glad I didn't do that, let me not sit here and criticize someone else lest someone come blast me. Everybody wants a mirror to see how they look until they see how they look. Then they angry with the mirror for them looking raggedy. Everybody talking about they want the truth until they find out the truth is that other people see their imperfections, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Everybody wants the truth until the truth means they have to change. In the last few years, I've spent some time around some people who have shown me what it felt like to deal with previous iterations of me. More times than not, I don't have the bandwidth. And even when I do, I'm not willing to volunteer the energy to entertain the behavior. Yester me knew why I acted the way I did. Yester me knew why I felt the way I did. I heard people telling me that I was impacting the space, but I didn't feel the impact, so I didn't think much of what they were saying. I felt like they needed to figure out how to deal with their feelings, same way I was trying to figure out how to deal with mine. But I heard what they said. And I did try to make adjustments. And that might even be rooted in the fact that I was so longing for companionship and friendship in my youth that when companionship or engagement were in jeopardy of being withdrawn or withheld, and they said it was something in my personality that needed to be adjusted, that I would try to make the adjustment to save the relationship. That feedback, while more often than not it was self-serving, it opened me up to self-review and reflection early on. It wasn't until I got older or maybe more attentive to or more aware that I realized a lot of those personality change requests and directives were to serve the egos of the companions. And then I spent some time feeling stupid because I was always trying to change me to accommodate the desires of others, while those same people were coming with, you gotta love me or leave me alone type energy. Nonetheless, the experience served me well because while I kept trying to figure out where the balance was in that and never finding any because there was none, it taught me to really evaluate what people were trying to change in me and why. I learned to ask myself, are they criticizing unreasonably, or are they telling me an unfavorable truth about myself that I don't like and I dislike even more that other people know it? So now, constantly being in a space with people reflecting back to me who and how I was is unpleasant twofold. For one, the behavior is redundant and overbearing. And for two, it's embarrassing to see what I look like. The upside is it reminds me to be mindful of my current self. Again, episode 1, and I'm fairly certain it was episode 7, I said to you, you don't get to decide or dictate how people experience you, but what you can do is curate the experience you'd like for them to have. All right, Passion, fair enough. You made your point about mirrors and people reflecting us back to ourselves, which I don't totally agree with, but you made a decent enough argument. But how does that support these audiences lying? A lot of these givers refuse to see how they're takers. A, giving everything to B doesn't negate the fact that they take as much as they can from C. A lot of these selfless people are extremely selfish, self-involved, self-concerned, self-absorbed. And so they give a little something or a big something, but then the conversation is about how selfless they are doing these things for others. That's the same thing with the sacrificers. Sure, you made a small sacrifice for someone, but you don't even acknowledge the sacrifices others have made or are currently making for you. And that's only inclusive of the sacrifices that you're aware of. That doesn't even include the sacrifices you have no idea are being made to make things happen for you. You're forgiving, understanding, accepting, and loving, but you're ready to throw someone over the balcony if they bump into you right after the service where you were slain in the spirit. You're loving and beautiful and God-minded until you clear the parking lot. Then you cutting people off as you're driving, and you cursing out the person who cut you off like you didn't just do the same thing. Somebody in that audience or that congregation is lying to themselves about their own goodness and the treatment they've earned. Now, am I saying that they're inherently bad? No. But turning a blind eye to their worst qualities is delusional. Saying, I know I do some wild things, but overall I'm a good person, while praying for karma to come handle the people acting exactly like them, while simultaneously thinking karma should skip them because what they did wasn't so bad. That's crazy. That's lying to yourself. A lot of us are doing our best to look at life as isolated incidents and refusing to realize the bad, the disappointing, or the ugly you do to anybody. That energy can and will return to you from anybody. Not just the person from whom you may have deserved it. You abused Jay, but you're good to K, so why would K be foul to you? That seed was sown by you when you were contentedly abusing Jay. Getting out of that situation with no repercussions doesn't mean there'll never be repercussions. But I didn't do this, though. Energy is not tit for tat. That's people behavior. Well, I've never done anything that would warrant someone handle me this way. Let you tell it. Again, you don't know what impact you've had on everyone because everyone isn't telling the story. Everyone isn't speaking up. A lot of people are pretending they're not devastated because society makes them feel like any outward or public displays of vulnerability makes them soft. And since the tough guys are the loudest, the tender hearts often feel shamed into silence because they're constantly being accused of overreacting. Just because you don't know the extent of the damage you did doesn't mean you didn't do extensive damage. These are all the truths people want to debate because debating the truth means they don't have to accept it. At least not yet. That's lying to yourself. If you want the truth, only if you can handle it, then you don't want the truth because you can't actually handle it. Well, what about you, Passion? What makes you so perfect that you could tell us that we can't handle the truth? You use that road rage example, but I've heard you drive. I've been in the car with you, y'all. And you've probably seen me post videos of me doing a PSA when I'm driving and I get busy on a horn. Beep, beep, toot, toot, clear out. But see, friend, I'm not telling you to look at you to keep your attention off of me. I'm telling you to look at you because I already study me. I I review and analyze chasms and schisms in relationships past and present on a regular basis. I see where I've fallen and sometimes still fall short. And I see it mirrored back to me all the time. And the minute I see it, I'm immediately convicted. Prime example, the subject in the employee referral episode. Their lack of delivery, their lack of follow-up, their lack of follow-through. That's the same way I fall short for myself. The excuses, the explanations, the justifications, I've given them to others and I've given them to me. And I told y'all that in the overpromising and under-delivering episode. So I'm not exempt from any of this. I'm just hard enough on myself when I catch myself giving myself grace undeserved because I didn't do the work. Sometimes it's hurtful, but more times it's embarrassing to get called out by someone else. It's even harder when you're calling yourself out because now, not only have you acknowledged it, but if you don't do anything about it, you know you're the problem and there's no one to blame but you. That's some bitter truth. I had to learn to handle the truth because the way I see and speak on things makes people uncomfortable. So instead of self-reflecting, they often feel attacked. They deflect and they project. They jump to the defense. Well, since you feel this way, let me tell you about you type energy. But if you're telling me for my wellness and my self-development, why would you bring it up now that you're angered and outraged? Why wouldn't you have addressed it before now? Your intentions betray you. So I stand on what I said. A whole lot of somebodies are lying to themselves about who and how they are to others. They're in denial and delusional, trying to convince people who experience them daily or weekly that they aren't as bad as they're made out to be because they're giving themselves grace for mistreating people because of their own emotional underdevelopment, rage and anger management issues, or unhealed trauma or grief. And while these people are waiting for deliverance from these vile wretches surrounding them and holding a vigil, waiting for karma to come and give the wretched what they deserve, they fail to realize that the vengeance they so desire to befall others is the very vengeance that will be coming for them, because the behaviors they dislike, resent, or hate in others often but not always are a reflection of the worst parts of themselves. It's not action for action. Sometimes it's spirit for spirit or intention for intention. Only thinking about you causes you to do what's best for you, regardless of who becomes a casualty. Some lie and steal while others disrespect and abuse. It's the same energy. Photos allow you to crop out the truth. Mirrors don't. We could debate it if you want to. I got 5 on it that somewhere in your argument is but to justify or excuse something you did, why this argument doesn't apply to you. But I'm up for it. We can even discuss it further in the live. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. Drop your questions, comments, concerns, commendations, criticism, compliments, and or critiques below. All are welcome. Listener letters can be sent to my brilliant friend passion@gmail.com. Whether you're viewing or listening on your preferred podcast platform, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. I'm not at all offended by a share or 5, even if you're sharing because you totally disagree with what's been said. Conversation is how we grow. So help me help others help themselves. If you would like to be a financial contributor, donations can be made via Podbean, PayPal, Cash App, Linktree, or Zelle. Didn't that sound like a song? I feel like I could make a song out of that. All the links are in the description box. Every little bit helps. It all goes back into the pod. And with that, Your Get You Right Guru is signing off. Y'all go forth. Be great. Be filled with bliss. Be armed and empowered with knowledge. Remember that the treatment you are getting is directly correlated to the treatment you've given. Remember that you're supposed to treat people how you want to be treated and not necessarily how they've treated you. Remember that treating others poorly because you've been treated poorly is a sign of emotional underdevelopment and possibly regression. You have to be honest with yourself, and the truth is, most of us aren't ready to really deal with the truth of our behaviors and impact. But ready or not, we all have to deal with the truth at some point, and it would be much better for us to arrive at these truths on our own than to have them shoved into our faces by someone else. In all things, be passionate. See you later.